In 1929, grocery store owners across America called Clarence Birdseye's invention frozen bricks. They said housewives would never buy food that came out of a freezer. They said frozen meant rotten. They said no self-respecting store would waste floor space on a glorified icebox. Birdseye had spent 7 years perfecting a machine that could freeze fish so fast the ice crystals never had time to destroy the flesh. He had 168 patents. He had proof that flash-frozen food tasted better than fresh fish that had spent a week on ice. None of it mattered. The grocers refused to stock his products. Birdseye went bankrupt. Then something changed. Within 18 months of his first successful test market, those same grocers were begging for his products. And today, the frozen food aisle Birdseye invented generates over $300 billion a year. This is how a fur trader from Brooklyn watched Inuit fishermen and figured out something scientists had missed for decades. Labrador, Canada. Winter of 1916. Clarence Birdseye was not a food scientist. He was a fur trader working for the United States government, cataloging wildlife in one of the most brutal environments on Earth. Temperatures dropped to 40 below. The wind cut through everything, and the Inuit families he lived with had figured out how to survive it. Birdseye watched them fish. They would pull a trout from a hole in the ice, and within seconds, the fish was frozen solid. Not slowly, the way food froze back in New York. Instantly, the fish went stiff before it could even stop flopping. Here is what Birdseye noticed that nobody else had. When those fish thawed months later, they tasted fresh. Not mushy, not rotten, fresh. The texture was perfect. The flavor was intact. It was as if the fish had been caught that morning. Birdseye had eaten frozen fish back in the States. Everyone had, and everyone knew it was terrible. The flesh turned to mush. The flavor disappeared. Frozen food was what you ate when you had no other choice. But the Inuit fish was different, and Birdseye spent months trying to understand why. The answer came down to ice. When food freezes slowly, water inside the cells has time to form large ice crystals. Those crystals are sharp. They puncture cell walls like tiny knives. When the food thaws, all that cellular damage turns the texture to paste. The juices leak out. The structure collapses. This is why frozen food had always tasted terrible. The freezing process itself was destroying it. But when food freezes instantly in extreme cold and high wind, the crystals stay microscopic. They form so fast they never have time to grow. The cell walls stay intact. When you thaw the food, it is structurally identical to when it was fresh. The Inuit had not discovered this through science. They had discovered it through 10,000 years of survival. Birdseye was just the first outsider paying attention. He returned to New York in 1917 with an obsession. If he could replicate that instant freezing in a controlled environment, he could preserve food indefinitely without destroying it. He could ship fish from Labrador to Kansas and have it taste like it was caught yesterday. The problem was that industrial refrigeration in 1917 was designed for slow freezing. Giant cold rooms took hours to bring food down to temperature. Every commercial freezing operation produced the same mushy, tasteless results. Birdseye needed to freeze food faster than any existing technology allowed. He spent the next 7 years experimenting. His first prototype used salt, ice, and an electric fan in his kitchen. It barely worked. His second attempt used calcium chloride brine at 25 below zero. It was better, but still too slow. He filed patent after patent, refining the process. By 1924, he had cracked it. His double-belt freezer pressed packaged food between two metal plates chilled to 40 degrees below zero. The pressure and the extreme cold meant food froze completely in about 90 minutes. The ice crystals stayed small. The texture survived. Birdseye formed a company called General Seafoods. He started packaging frozen fish fillets in Gloucester, Massachusetts. He had the science. He had the technology. He had proof that his frozen fish was indistinguishable from fresh. What he did not have was a single grocery store willing to sell it. The grocers had reasons. Frozen food had a reputation. Decades of mushy, flavorless products had taught consumers that frozen meant inferior. No housewife was going to pay the same price for frozen bricks that she would pay for fresh fish from the market. But there was a bigger problem. Grocery stores in 1924 did not have freezer cases. They had ice boxes for butter and maybe a cooler for milk. Installing freezer units meant expensive equipment and higher electric bills. Why would any grocer make that investment for a product customers did not want? Birdseye tried everything. He offered demonstrations. He gave away free samples. He showed grocers the science, the patents, the test results. They did not care. The answer was no. By 1929, General Seafoods was failing. Birdseye had burned through his investors' money. He had a warehouse full of frozen fish that nobody would buy. The company was weeks from collapse. Then Marjorie Merriweather Post walked into his facility. Post was the heiress to the Postum Cereal Company, one of the largest food corporations in America. She had heard about Birdseye's technology and wanted to see it herself. He showed her the double-belt freezer. He let her taste the fish. She bought the entire company for $22 million. In 1929, money, that was a fortune. Postum renamed itself General Foods and hired Birdseye to keep developing the technology. Now he had something no inventor can buy. He had distribution. General Foods did not try to convince existing grocers to install freezer cases. They went around them. They partnered with equipment manufacturers to lease freezer units directly to stores. They paid for the installation. They absorbed the risk. All the grocer had to do was stock the product. On March 6, 1930, the first Birdseye frosted foods hit shelves in Springfield, Massachusetts. 26 different products, meat, fish, vegetables, and fruit, all flash frozen using Birdseye's patents. The results were immediate. Customers who had sworn they would never buy frozen food tried the products and could not tell the difference from fresh. Within weeks, stores were running out of inventory. The grocers, who had refused Birdseye 5 years earlier, were now calling General Foods, begging for freezer cases. By 1934, there were 516 Birdseye distribution points across America. By 1940, the frozen food industry was a $100 million market. By 1950, it had fundamentally transformed how Americans ate. Clarence Birdseye died in 1956 at age 69. He held 168 patents across multiple industries, but the flash freezing process remained his legacy. The same principle he discovered watching Inuit fishermen still powers every frozen food operation on Earth. The grocers, who called his invention frozen bricks, did not know they were looking at a $300 billion industry. They saw what every skeptic sees, a technology that had failed before, being pitched by a man with no credentials in their industry. Birdseye saw something else. He saw that the failure was not in freezing itself. The failure was in freezing slowly. Speed was the variable nobody had thought to change. Subscribe so you do not miss the next story.